In its modern form, a gated community or walled community is a form of residential community or housing estate containing strictly controlled entrances for pedestrians, bicycles, and automobiles, and often characterized by a closed perimeter of walls and fences. Gated communities usually consist of small residential streets and include various shared amenities. For smaller communities, this may be only a park or other common area. For larger communities, it may be possible for residents to stay within the community for most daily activities. Gated communities are a type of common interest development, but are distinct from intentional communities. Given that gated communities are spatially a type of enclave, Seth N. Lowe, among other anthropologists, has argued that they have a negative effect on the net social capital of the broader community outside the gated community. Some gated communities, usually called guard-gated communities, are staffed by private security guards and are often home to high-value properties, and/or are set up as retirement villages. Some gated communities are secure enough to resemble fortresses and are intended as such. Amenities available in a gated community depend on a number of factors including geographical location, demographic composition, community structure, and community fees collected. When there are sub-associations that belong to master associations, the master association may provide many of the amenities. In general, the larger the association, the more amenities that can be provided. Amenities also depend on the type of housing. For example, single-family home communities may not have a common area swimming pool, since individual homeowners have the ability to construct their own private pools. A condominium, on the other hand, may offer a community pool, since the individual units do not have the option of a private pool installation. In Brazil, the most widespread form of gated community is called condomínio fechado, closed housing estate, and is the object of desire of the upper classes. Such a place is a small town with its own infrastructure, reserve power supply, sanitation, and security guards. The purpose of such a community is to protect its residents from exterior violence. The same philosophy is seen on closed buildings and most shopping centers. Many of them can only be accessed from inside the parking lot or the garage. In Pakistan, gated communities are located in big as well as small cities and are considered standard of high-quality living. Defense Housing Authority and Barrio Town are major private gated community developers and administrators, and one of the largest in the world. The assets of Barrio Town itself are worth $30 billion. Most gated communities in Pakistan have public parks, schools, hospitals, shopping malls, gymnasiums, and country clubs. In Argentina, they are called barrios privados, literal translation private neighborhoods, or just countries, and are often seen as a symbol of wealth. However, gated communities enjoy dubious social prestige. Many members of the middle and upper middle class regard gated community dwellers as nouveau riches or snobs. While most gated communities have only houses, some bigger ones, such as Nordelta, have their own hospital, school, shopping mall, and more. In post-segregation South Africa, gated communities have mushroomed in response to high levels of violent crime. They are broadly classified as security villages, large-scale privately developed areas, or enclosed neighborhoods. Some of the newest neighborhoods being developed are almost entirely composed of security villages, with a few isolated malls and other essential services, such as hospitals. In part, property developers have adopted this response to counter squatting, which local residents fear due to associated crime, and which often results in a protracted eviction process. They are popular in southern China, namely the Pearl River Delta region, the most famous of which is Clifford Estates. In Saudi Arabia, gated communities have existed since the discovery of oil, mainly to accommodate families from Europe or North America. After threat levels raised since the late 1990s against people from the Western world in general and U.S. citizens in particular, gates have become armed, sometimes heavily, and all vehicles have been inspected. Marksmen and Sang armored vehicles appeared in certain times, markedly after recent terrorist attacks in areas nearby, targeting people from European or North American countries. Gated communities are rare in continental Europe and Japan. Proponents of gated communities, and to a lesser degree, of cul-de-sac, maintain that the reduction or exclusion of people who would only be passing through, or more generally, of all non-local people, makes any stranger much more recognizable in the closed local environment, and thus reduces crime danger. This view is considered unrealistic by others, since only a very small proportion of all non-local people passing through the area are potential criminals. Increased traffic should increase rather than decrease safety by having more people around whose presence could deter criminal behavior or who could provide assistance during an incident. Another criticism is that gated communities offer a false sense of security. Some studies indicate that safety in gated communities may be more illusion than reality, showing that gated communities in suburban areas of the United States have no less crime than similar non-gated neighborhoods. A commentary in the New York Times specifically blames the gated communities for the shooting death of Trayvon Martin, as the columnist states that gated communities churn a vicious cycle by attracting like-minded residents who seek shelter from outsiders, and whose physical seclusion then worsens paranoid groupthink against outsiders.